I grew up in the Orange County. I grew up in sort of the Christian end of the Orange County music scene, which really sort of established this whole bizarre little scene. It was the beginnings of it. It had its origins in Orange County in the early '80s, and that's my time in that was more towards the late '80s when I got when I was really sort of just entrenched in that scene, going to concerts. There was shows every weekend, and you met people by going to shows, and all your friends, you went to shows, and that's really all you did. And you would see all these older bands like the Altar Boys and Undercover, and just these bands that sort of started the scene. And you went there and you just said, gee, if I could only do this, or if I could just play one concert, or if I could just start a band or do anything like what they're doing. And before you know it, one thing leads to another, and you're doing music. To me, it's like it's constantly thinking back on the good times that we had growing up, because there's kind of a non-existent scene there. There's something that was so, it was so huge in our lives. Like, when I say me, I'm thinking of me and my brother and just friends we had that are, in other bands now. But for something that had such an influence, it just doesn't exist anymore. And there's just, we all have to come to the Midwest and the East Coast to play shows, whereas growing up, the whole scene literally existed in Orange County. And so, it really holds a place, because those were, all the great times of my life, just being able to go to so many shows and being influenced by just really a small handful of bands, 5 or 6 bands that were, leading these scenes, in the 80s, early 90s and stuff. And so yeah, it had the greatest effect, on me personally and the people I know.
It's been a long time. It's hard to remember the first time, but all I remember when I first heard it was, I knew it was somebody that had to be close to my age, because everything that he was doing musically was like exactly what I remember from a certain point of time in my life that was like the earliest new wave technological, rock that came out and stuff. Like, I was totally into it. And so when he did that kind of sound, he was capturing all those sound and stuff, I was like, somebody gets it, man. I know this guy understands where I'm coming from. I love this stuff. So
Orange County, it's like so punk orientated and hard music orientated. You would pretty much never fit into any of the Orange County music scene, basically. We play there pretty often, and people come out to the shows.
I think years ago we probably could have been able to single out influences a little bit easier. I think now it's just being influenced by what you personally did before. You sort of trigger off what you did in the past and try to improve on it and progress things. And
yeah, probably like the most influential stuff, I guess. For most people, it's the stuff they're listening to in high school, which, would have been like the Smiths and the Pixies, Ride, just a lot of like, British kind of stuff.
The influences can come from anything, I've been influenced by, I've been influenced by a Social Distortion track as much as I've been influenced by, say like a New Order track, I can listen, to Social D record and go, oh gosh, I want to write a song, the attitude is there, and a song is a song. So yeah, I can be influenced by Social D, or as much as I can be influenced by No Doubt or New Order or the Human League or whatever, so it's all in the same pot for me.
I had first met Ronnie and his brother when they were in a band called Morales Forest. And I remember first seeing them play live at this place called the Rock of the West in Orange County, Santa Ana, California. And I remember just loving their band because they sounded like The Cure. And it was just super cool. When Ronnie first started doing Joy Electric, I heard the record and I thought, oh my gosh, what is this? This is so cool.
My first experiences, I would say it would be with the Martin Brothers. The Martin Brothers were I was just I wasn't even out of high school. It was my senior year of high school. And there was a record label back in the day called Narrow Path Records. And Narrow Path was, had like the Crucified, Breakfast with Amy, one of the releases they were slated to release was a band called Morella's Forest. This wasn't the band that was the girl singer out of Ohio. This was Ronnie Martin on guitar and vocals, Jason Martin on drums, and another guy, Randy Lamb on bass. And they played my punk rock band, opened up for them.
When I first met Ronnie, he was doing the Dance House Children stuff. So I started, going to shows, and there was a couple Dance House shows that I actually played at, and then that evolved into Rainbow Rider. And I always, Rainbow Rider, we toured. It was basically just Joy Electric before it was Joy Electric. So we were already touring. We put out the one record, and then that turned into Joy Electric. So just kind of always been hanging around.
And the next time I saw them, they were in a band called Dance House Children, together still, as the Martin Brothers. And then I hadn't seen them in a while from that. I joined Mortal, Christian industrial band. I was the bass player for Mortal. And then Mortal said, we're taking the Dance House Children guy on tour, but he's in a new band called Rainbow Rider. So I was like, okay, I'm going on tour with Rainbow Rider. So Ronnie showed up, gave me my stage name I had with him. So if you're gonna print any kind of name on this, like, don't put Brian Gray. My stage name is Hot Rocks. That was my name when I played with Ronnie. And so I was on the tour, and they did like 4 or 5 songs. It was Jeff Cloud, Ronnie Martin. I played guitar. I came out around there like, Hot Rocks, you have to play this weird hollow body guitar we have. Every night I had to wear this Rainbow Rider shirt. It was a flower. I don't know if you've ever seen their album cover. And so I would wear that, and Ronnie would say, Hot Rocks, we need you to take your hat off. We need you to try to put your hair in your face as much as you can. And we just want you to just look at your shoes the whole time. Wear this guitar really low and just strum as much open notes. And on these keyboard breakdowns, could you please play something like Lenny Kravitz or something? And I used to just be like, whatever, man. It's your gig, Ronnie. I'll do whatever you want. And it was great. The response was really actually good. And then, because on that tour, Mortal was really kind of very hardcore still. And so here came out this dance music. He's like doing house music, as he called it then, or something.
Well, Michael Knott, he's kind of the one that gave me sort of my first break back in the day. It was actually my brother and I, Jason. He kind of gave us our first deal on a label he had back in the early 90s called Blonde Vinyl. And we had done a demo tape, and it got into the hands of Chris Colbert, who was a producer at the time, and he gave it to Mike, and Mike liked it, and so they signed us. They signed us for their new label, and Mike has always kind of had a special place because he's always supported everything I've ever done, whether he's worked on it hands-on or just from a distance, and he's always just been so nice throughout all the years. I mean, I don't see him as often as I used to, but I was a really big fan of his Shaded Pain album, and so he was always kind of an icon to my brother and I growing up. So it was one of those things where we were real excited to be working with him and actually to get to know him from the get-go, and that was really exciting.
He was the first person to actually, see a vision in what we were doing. He owned the label that put out the first 2 Dance House Children records, and then when that label folded, he put out the Rainbow Rider record, which was on his label. And I think he would have kept putting out stuff. He just he became more involved with music as opposed to the industry. So he's totally aware that what we were doing was kind of weird and a little left field, and he loved that. He loved the element of us doing weird stuff. And he was always stoked to hear new songs and that kind of stuff. So has always been really helpful and encouraging. It was really nice. He's a cool guy. He's been a great friend to us.